Baylor season is over if they lose to TCU. Or is it?
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, and happy Wicker Wednesday. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Of course, that means Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6 is joining. I'm Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on YouTube. And today we're talking more TCU Baylor rivalry. Why this is the biggest game of the year for the Bears so far. And what happens if they win? More scary, what happens if they lose? We'll give you the winners and losers from the Big 12 and what was kind of a crazy weekend in the Big 12 this past weekend, specifically looking at blowouts and upsets. And we'll point to you someone who's the X factor in this game that you might not have supposed would be the X factor in this game of Baylor TCU. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Sydney Wicker, KCEN Channel 6 on this Wicker Wednesday. Let's see if you agree with me first. I kind of just put this out there. Is this the most important game of the season for Baylor?
Yeah. Hands down.
Perfect answer.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I felt like SMU was a must-win game. Like every game they've had has kind of been must-win. That after Arizona State becomes a must-win. Like their back started to feel against the wall in a couple of those situations. And we've seen them respond, which is amazing. And that's exactly what you want to see out of this team. But of course, another must-win situation. It's kind of must-win from here on out, though. So every week kind of feels like a really big deal if they can't pull it off, especially with how competitive the Big 12 is, that we see that week in and week out. You never know what's going to happen. That's just college football for you and the madness of it. But yeah, huge game for Baylor. Kind of a scary one because this TCU team definitely raising some eyebrows this season. But yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
And to put like the context into it too, you know, we talked about it, kind of the same things in the Arizona State game of like, you know, these two teams are on an even playing field from what we've seen so far this year. And whoever wins that game was going to take the lead in the Big 12 title race. That was, of course, Big 12 game number 1, and Baylor lost. And you look at it now, and it's a similar thing. You know, both these teams sitting at 4-2, very similar style. You know, neither has a great defense this year. Neither's been as effective running as they would hope to. Obviously, Baylor's been much better running the ball, but maybe not as effective as they were hoping for. And they have two of the best quarterbacks in the country. And you look at, you know, Baylor coming off a bye week, too. That's like, that does kind of feel like a must win, even though it's on the road. It's a rivalry game. It's a tough one. But I would go as far as saying this, Sydney, that if you don't win this game, then those goals that are still ahead of you, kind of hanging by a thread, those fall by the wayside, I think, at 3 losses.
Yeah, I mean, teams talk so much about controlling their own destiny, and you still hold that right now. If you play for Baylor, if you're a Baylor fan, like it's still in your hands. What you do with it from here on out really determines that. We talked last week about how key the bye week was last season. And it was at that point where they really hit a turning point and they were able to do so much. I know that's something Coach Aranda was asked this week in his weekly press conference about, like, what comparisons do you see? And he still sees a really hungry team. He sees guys who are competitive and going on the road, playing in Fort Worth, a really tough TCU team in a rivalry showdown. That's pretty big. It's, you know, there's so many parallels. You know, they beat SMU just like Baylor beat SMU. The biggest difference so far is they lost to Kansas State just last week. And coming off of that loss, you know that TCU is going to come into this game ready to prove something because they also hold their own destiny up to this point, and they have big goals, I'm sure, themselves as a program. How do they move on? Well, they're going to feel that same pressure that Baylor feels, just on opposite sides. I don't think we've seen a Baylor TCU parallel quite like this in a while. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like last season we weren't really talking about how these teams were both like on the verge of something. Baylor was trying to crawl out of where they were at. It feels so similar to me when we're looking at both sides. You also talked about how good both these quarterbacks are. Like there's literally so much similar between TCU and Baylor going into this game.
Just keep hearing that all the time. Football, non-football, Baylor, TCU, so damn similar, and that's probably a big reason why we hate each other. I think is probably a big reason why there. And to go back to like you talk about the similarities, like it's been since Arizona State that you've played a team that's on your level. Like Kansas State certainly getting better, but not as good as you. And the same thing, Oklahoma State, not the same thing. They're not getting better, but they were definitively not as good as you. And so if you lose this game, as we're talking about, that probably shows that like there was just way more work to be done than we thought. But if you win this game, that probably changes the outlook of the next 5 games on the schedule, which by, the defenses that you're facing, the back 6 of the schedule is even tougher than the first 6, which we didn't think was going to be possible at the beginning of the season. So we play out a loss bomb shelter scenario. But how about if they win, Sydney, and they do it against a high octane offense, but Baylor outscores, and maybe it's like the SMU game. You don't learn a lot about your defense, but you do say, wow, that's one of the best offenses and probably the best quarterback we face all year. And we went toe to toe and we beat them. And you're sitting at 5-2. I think that would change the optics for a lot of Baylor fans, and maybe even this Baylor fan hosting the show. Like, I think that change a lot if you win this game, even if it is a shootout.
100%. I think just like last year when this coming off the bye week was almost a chance to like reset and change the tone, this is another chance to come in refreshed and a chance to make a statement. A lot of coaches talk about each week is a 1-0 mentality and stuff like that.
Success is rented. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Win the
but
day.
It totally is important to go into this week with a fresh mindset of if we win this, it changes a lot for us in this program. So I think it's huge. I think if Baylor is able to pull out a win, I think a lot more people are looking at Baylor as a legit contender and a real competitive football team. And maybe that even helps Sawyer out a little bit with as far as Heisman conversations and things like that go. You got to win the big games if you want to be a guy who establishes himself in those conversations. And this is a big one to where you could do that.
And worth noting, it was a different part of the season. It was game number 1, but the game that put RG3 on the map for that season, the beginning of that season, was game number 1 against TCU. They had just gone to and won the Rose Bowl the year before. Went to Floyd Casey and RG lit them up. A awesome game, 50-48 final. I wouldn't mind another 50-48 or a 61-58.
You know why I hate that, Cam? Because that means I am sprinting sideline to sideline to get every first down, every touchdown. So
Sydney would love a 31-24 and all the points come in the first half. Like that would be perfect, I think, for you.
Honestly, between the first quarter and the fourth quarter, that's the most ideal for me. So
okay.
Let's work on that. Dave Aranda, if you're taking any suggestions from Locked On Baylor, let it be that.
Please. First, just win, but second, let's get some style points in the way that helps our local media members if we can. Please. Speaking of helping us out, there are some teams in the Big 12 that are going to need some real help after what they did this weekend. Was TCU, Baylor's next opponent, among the biggest losers in the conference? We'll tell you next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Mazda. You know them, you love them. They craft cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our beloved Baylor Bears, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is also brought to you by Peloton. The way I like to start every morning is with Peloton. I think you should do it too. if I'm being honest. It's shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's the most advanced equipment yet. It's designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, cross-training with your favorite instructors, all in tow every time. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan and stay motivated and then reach your peak performance. Okay. The swivel screen, folks, that's a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without ever missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations, they keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and your energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Once again, that is onepeloton.com. Back here on this Wicker Wednesday, taking stock on the ever-changing, ever-crazy Big 12. This would be kind of a bummer section to do if you were in like the Big 10, Sydney. It would just be like, loser, Penn State again. Yeah, well, and there's just not a lot of movement around there. And certainly Tech is firmly in its spot at the top, but there's so much movement around the rest of this league. It makes it a lot more fun to do winners and losers in the Big 12 than I think maybe any other conference in America. That's why it's America's conference right there. If I say so myself.
If you say so yourself, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say so myself. I'm gonna anoint it America's conference. We like starting with the losers. We do like that around here. So Sydney, let me know who you got. Loser of the week in the Big 12.
Yeah, Iowa State has to be.
Oh.
Well,
it doesn't have to be, but it's pretty good.
Does.
It's pretty good.
It does have to be. This was an Iowa State team who pulled out a really gritty win against their in-state rival, Iowa State, earlier in the year. A team who's had like some decent wins early on and has just truly plateaued, losing to Cincinnati and then carrying, I guess, a little bit of that losing energy into Colorado, a Colorado team that's been desperate for some wins, desperate for a turnaround, and they just
threw them a bone.
Yeah, and I don't know. I watched a little bit of that game. Iowa State they just looked really flat to me. And I thought that was a really good chance for them to respond and to get back, and they didn't. And so for that reason, they're my biggest loser.
Yeah, and it's back-to-back road losses. And look, there's some sympathy towards a team that's got some injuries and has to go on the road, but they didn't go to BYU. They didn't go to Utah. They didn't even go to Tech in a night game. Like, Cincinnati and Colorado, like that's not the toughest places that we have to play in this conference. And I'll tell you what, it makes BYU look better. Not only their double overtime win against Arizona, but the fact that their best win of the year before that was probably taking care of business at Colorado and just winning a tight game. And we looked at that of like, oh yeah, well, but now Colorado beats Iowa State. So yeah, that's a big deal. My loser is going to be thematic to this week. I'm going TCU for my big loser of the weekend. Again,
and this is when everybody from Locked On Baylor goes, "Yay, Kim!"
This is how I keep my job, Sydney. Okay. No, I just think they missed a total opportunity this weekend to really ride high into this Baylor game at 5-2, 5-1. And like Kansas State has been playing better, but TCU, from what we've seen all season long, is a better football team. And they just did not come ready to play. They just didn't. It was huge lapses in focus. I've talked about it like 3 times already this week, but the backwards pass, fumble, lateral, live ball that gets taken for a touchdown. Like there's just no excuse that nobody on the field in a white uniform or nobody on the TCU sideline is trying to get that ball, pointing to it. Like to the point where I was talking with my dad this weekend and he was like, why doesn't somebody come off the bench for TCU and tackle the guy with the ball? Take the 15 yards at that point. You take a touchdown off the board. And I'm like, that might catch on. that strategy might just catch on. It was just one
Thank
where
you, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you to the bulldozer. Someone's going to do that this weekend and credit Locked On Baylor, which I will accept. It reminds me of Friday Night Lights, the TV show. But it's just a complete lapse of focus in that one. That was such a winnable game in the Big 12 for TCU. And when you see the fact, like, again, we put context into these things. When you see the fact that Iowa State lost, that Kansas lost, that Arizona State lost, like that becomes a pretty big deal. And yeah, if it wasn't TCU week, I'm probably picking Arizona State losing by 32 points to Utah. That shouldn't have happened, but for me, it is TCU.
I think too, just with TCU, that I know they've struggled a little bit getting their run game going, but it was completely shut down against Kansas State too. Like
How about
nobody
their
was going
lead back?
anywhere.
Their lead back had 81 yards to go to this point. Their lead back had 81 yards, and TCU as a team rushed for 72 yards. So do the math there. Yeah, they are not
Not good.
effective running the football again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
But just in that game as a whole, it was so bad.
Yeah,
So
big time.
bad.
Big time.
Yeah.
We'll see how that works this week. Baylor, of course, has not been good against the run at all. Let's get a little more positive. You got a winner?
Yes, of course I've got a winner.
Okay.
My winner this week, I'm trying to remember, Cam, I'm sorry, because I know I told you, and then I just forgot. So I'm pulling up my list right now. LOL, everybody at home, chill out.
Filibuster.
Who did I tell you my winner was, Cam?
Well, we were peeling back the curtain a little bit. We were deciding between a couple
We
in
were.
the preamble to this show. I think we had it down to Colorado and Kansas State. So
Oh,
whichever one
yeah.
of those you want to pick, go ahead. I might even pivot to another, to be honest.
Are you going to switch it up on me on the fly?
You go ahead. Just pick one. I'll go with one of the other ones.
Okay, all right.
So many winners in this conference.
Too many winners. We love them all. Wicker's winners are great.
Yeah.
I would say my winner this week. Sorry for everybody listening. We're usually way more prepared than this.
We had options. We had options.
It's on me. Okay, I'm actually gonna change up my answer because I know I didn't say this earlier. I'm gonna go with Cincinnati.
Okay.
I know
Not a
it's
very
kinda
impressive
shocking.
win.
No, but I like the role that they're on and the way that they're pulling out wins.
Okay.
2011, not a score that screams great, but Cincinnati scares me right now out of all the teams in the Big 12. BYU obviously just continues to stay good. Same with Tech, but I just feel like Cincinnati's just been pulling away. And I like that about a program. And I mean, they were at home to pull that out too. I don't know. Something about Cincinnati and the energy that we've seen out of them is different. They're a team I think none of us really looked at as a contender, and they just continue to prove that week in and week out.
Well, since you did it, I'm going to ignore the other two we had too, which
Okay.
were Colorado and Kansas State. Both good winners, right? Like both
Right.
deserved winners. But I'm going to go with Utah.
Okay.
Playing at home, but
That
they
was a big
absolutely BTA'd Arizona State. And kind of what we talk about. I was about to say this about Cincinnati, but I think it works with Utah maybe even more so. Like, again, the context of this. We're looking – Tech is the best team in this conference.
Yeah.
As Larry Bird famously once said, I'm just looking around to see who's coming in second. Okay? And those teams, to me, would have been Iowa State, Arizona State, maybe outside shot at TCU or Kansas. All four of those teams lost. All four of them. And so now that's a big week for Utah to possibly be number 2. It's a big week for BYU to possibly be number 2. It's a big week for possibly Cincinnati with the role that they're on. It now becomes wide open, especially with Iowa State going down. So Utah could find themselves back in the rankings pretty soon here after a lopsided victory over Arizona State by 32 points. They needed that after losing so bad to Tech at home. And I do think like this isn't like beating up on a team going on its way down, I don't think. I think Arizona State's better than that. That's an impressive win for the Utah Utes. So at some point we might need to do like a grand winner. We need to, like who had the better argument for and give the grand winner of this. And I think we have now mentioned every game that happened in the Big 12 except for Houston and Oklahoma State. And I can't call either of those ones winners, even though it was a 20-point Houston Cougar victory. It was a little tight there at the beginning. But anyway, that's the winners and losers of this week in the Big 12. And if Baylor's going to be a big winner next week, they're going to need a big game from this somewhat unlikely source. We'll tell you who that is coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, let's talk about Wayfair. Guys, it's coming up, man. It is coming up. The holidays will be here before you know it, and you're going to have to redecorate. I'm sorry. It's just the way that it is. Okay. Maybe your serveware needs a refresh. Maybe your guest room needs some new bedding. Maybe you need a little decor around the bathroom. Wayfair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready. From Christmas trees and wreaths to bedding, cookware, and outdoor inflatables, it is your one-stop shop for every room in the house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection for every style and every budget. And with free and easy delivery, even the big stuff, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge delivery fees. So get organized, get refreshed, and get ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Today's episode is also brought to you by Supply House, just another place that is getting you supplied, much like our friends over at Wayfair are doing as well. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. And with the Trade Master perks, that's what happened. Their priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. So join the Trade Master program today and score serious perks like that priority shipping, lower prices, and even a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege and the number 5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. SHCollege 5 for 5% off that order. All right, Rivalry Week has hit Wicker Wednesday. Baylor, TCU, massive game as we've already talked about. TCU, one of the big losers. Baylor wins the bye week. And it's going to be a lot about the offenses in this game, Sydney. And I have a feeling that we're not going to stray too far from that here. Sawyer, Robertson, Josh Hoover, two of the best quarterbacks in the country. Whether you see them on the Heisman shortlist or not, they are. It's like the great thing about science. Whether you believe it or not, it's right, okay? Sawyer Robertson, Josh Hoover, two of the very best. They're number 1 and 2 in all the major passing statistics in the country. We know they're going to be good, is what I'm trying to say. So, Sydney Wicker, outside of those two, who becomes a kind of a key player and X factor for you from the Baylor side?
I mean, we talked about how hard it was for TCU to get their run game going. For Baylor, we've seen some struggles with that as well. But if they really want to win this one, winning on the ground, I think could be huge. So Bryson Washington finally having a big game could be huge for the Bears. We've seen what Sawyer can do with all of his wide receivers. Michael Trigg just continues to be a guy who shines every week. Would love to see another huge game from him. Kobe Prentice as well. But Bryson, this is a chance for him to explode.
And look, it happened last year. 4 touchdowns against TCU on the ground last year. He had a big game. I like that you say that too, because it's been an interesting year for Bryson, right? Like the numbers are still good, but and honestly, I don't even think this is Bryson's fault. I just don't think they've been as effective running the ball. I don't think they've done it early enough in games. I don't think their line has been as good run blocking, and maybe they have faced some good run defenses for sure, but it just hasn't quite clicked the way that it did last year. And part of that's not having Dawson Pendergrass, but I did hear this recently, Sydney, that Bryson's been banged up the last couple of weeks. It was wrist that they were saying, wrist injury from that. Remember that hit that kind of hit him like right the sternum against Oklahoma State? I think he's battling something more than that. In fact, I'm hearing from people that it could even be a rib injury, which for a running back, any position in football, but especially a running back where you're taking nothing but hits in that particular section of your body, that is really frightening if it's any kind of serious rib injury. So, we look back and we say, it hasn't been the year that Bryson had last year. And, it's sometimes people are getting so upset about the energy or lack of energy that the head coach brings to the football team. It's like, these are the players that some of you are choosing to not support.
Yeah.
You know, like this is going to sound very shaming here, and maybe that's what I'm going for. But like when we talk about the crowds not being there, I've said it a million times. It's not about supporting the coach. It's about supporting these players. And you've got a dude here who could have left last year and is battling through what sounds like a very painful injury to be your every down back because his team needs him. That's who you're going to support there. And that has never been a question of this group of players, has it, Sydney? Like these guys, ton of heart and leave it all out there.
Toughness, like through and through. Bryson's one of the toughest guys I've ever watched play. Yeah. He's a tank. The way he barrels through people is unreal. His speed is great. Like he's just such an effective guy. Obviously, people saw what he did last year. They're gonna stop him. They know if Bryson's in, you're probably gonna run the ball. We gotta like be ready to stop this. So it's easier to predict too. So part of that as well is people know what to expect out of Bryson Washington, you know. But just going back to what you said about the heart of this team, that just continues to be so true. Sawyer Robertson, I've said time and time again, is the face of every Baylor quarterback that all quarterbacks should be from here on forward. Like he just is such a good model of what guys should be like. And you can tell what a leader he is, the relationships he has with people. People always say who you see and who you hear on and off the field in those post-game press conferences. He is the same guy when he goes in that locker room, when he is talking to the guys. Like it's as true as it gets. And I feel like that bleeds into the team so much. And we've seen that from Bryson. We've seen that from Trigg, I feel like, starting to become more of a leader. Obviously with Josh Cameron, like he's been that guy. It goes through everybody. So supporting those players is huge, and they're going to need it on Saturday.
Yeah. And hopefully we see plenty of Bears up there in Fort Worth. That's usually not an issue. It's usually not, which is obviously there's so many in the area, and that's the one time they'll dare go into Amon G. Carter Stadium. But if Bryson gives you 120 yards this Saturday, the Bears are going to win this game.
Yeah,
I feel pretty confident about that.
Can I say somebody on the defense I would like to see?
Yes, I'd love to hear this. Yeah.
I just feel like picking up momentum against Kansas State, Jacob Redding. That interception, huge.
Two
really
biggest plays of the year for Baylor. Both two.
Yes,
Jacob
came from
has.
him.
Yeah.
I also the walk-on mentality that any of the walk-ons have for Baylor just seems so special. But with him specifically, like he's such a grateful guy to be out there on the field talking about that heart. He doesn't take any rep for granted, and you can tell that. And I feel like he's got a really good chance to shine once again this week. I think having that interception before the bye week was huge for him. I think that's momentum. He's anxious to get back on the field after that big play. And I don't know if you listened to him after that game, but he was just like, he turned around and he goes, "Oh my God, there's no flags. Like I did it." Like he was so proud of himself. And I love that. So I feel like that excitement's going to carry into Saturday.
And not for nothing, he's also your best coverage guy. He's the best coverage graded guy this year, and you're going against the best quarterback you're going to see all year in Josh Hoover. So those are the X factors from us. Who are they from you? Let us know in the comment section below. Then be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us along, of course, on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We will have a crossover edition looking at this from both sides of the rivalry. We'll give you some more X factors. We'll give you some more preview on tomorrow's episode of your favorite show, which is Locked On Baylor.